Hey, Spencer from Keystone Giant Pumpkins. So, the pumpkin's 20 days old now, which is a pretty big milestone for pumpkin growing. It's at 123 pounds, which is pretty good weight, but it's not the best. Could be bigger. I'm hoping for it to pick up the pace with growth over the next couple of days because we're going to have some warmer nights. I'm hoping that will help it. The blossom end is a little indented here. You can see it better like that from there, which is a little concerning in the sense that it makes me worry a little bit about splitting, but I think it'll be all right. I've been giving it plenty of calcium to help prevent that. The size is good. It's a good shape too. There's a overhead view of it like that. That's a better view. Can't really show the scale with my hand because my hand is a lot closer to the camera. So that should be better with this hydrogen peroxide bottle. That's better scale for it. I had to clear out a couple leaves there because of some squash vine borers in them. And there's a couple squash vine borers in the actual big vine there. Right there. I tried to stop them so they don't cut off growth to the pumpkin. And I'm hoping that will work. It's nice and dry under here. It's sturdy. There's some looseness in the vine, which is good for when it grows. No splits there. Looks good. Looks like it's gonna have really good color, especially around that stem area there. And it's definitely growing. She did 16 pounds last night, which is pretty good, but it did 18 pounds one night and then it slumped down to 14 pounds and it jumped back up to 16 pounds, which makes me have hope that it'll continue growing. And how fast it grows. The sand bed starting to get a little smaller. I keep expanding it out and I'm going to have to continue doing that. I think I have a couple days, maybe like 2 or 3 before I have to do that again. The bed is good. Here's layers. It's like composite. There's a layer of like foam, pink insulation foam, and then there's the plywood on the bottom, 3/4 inch plywood, and there's 3/4 inch holes drilled every 6 inches on it. Not as much at the end there because it shouldn't get close to the end. And this is a pretty wide pumpkin, so I might have to expand this area a little bit. Some extra foam I have for it to grow on, but I don't have to do that for a while because it's still fairly small for a giant pumpkin. And let me show you what I'm feeding it. Here's this end of the plant. There's another plant that was down here, but the pumpkin never really took. So what I've been doing is I've just kind of been pushing that plant back and cutting it out and letting this plant go down and take it over. Okay, actually, let me show you some of the leaves down here. So you see how these leaves on these vines that are closer to the pumpkin are a little lighter green and they're slowing down, like this one especially here. You can tell it's slowing down because it doesn't have that cobra head shape is what it's called, when it looks more like this one with its sticking down and growing out still. And they're a little lighter green, which means that pumpkin has been sucking a lot of the nutrients from it. Other side of the plant looking pretty good. There's some squash vine borers like there's one that I got out, and the vine's just kind of growing weirdly where it was. That side of the plant's very healthy, and there were just a ton of tertiary vines in there that I've had to cut out, but after I've cut those out, now it should help the pumpkin grow faster and better. We move on over here. Here's some sand I have left. I'll probably need to fill this up again soon, probably after the next time I expand its bed. Here's like a thicker blanket that I use when it's colder, and here's the tape I use to measure it. You actually use the tape to measure around the pumpkin in a certain way to estimate its weight, and I can show that in a later video, but not now because this one's already getting pretty long. This is a box fan. This is just to keep the pumpkin cool if it's too hot, and also to dry out that blossom end and stem to avoid rot. Here's some of the fertilizer I use. It's 4-1838, and it has some good micronutrients like magnesium, boron, copper, iron, all the good smaller or micronutrients that the pumpkin needs. And it's you want to use this later in the season when the pumpkin's growing, and you want to use a more nitrogen heavy fertilizer when the plant is trying to grow, but you want to use a more potassium heavy fertilizer when the pumpkin itself is trying to grow. Here's this side. I have most of my area filled in. There's only this little bit here and there, and of course I'm making more space where that plant used to be. Here's where the corn used to be. It's kind of massacred by some wind that came through, but I still think we'll get a couple. There's an ear there, and some plants that have survived. This is just a umbrella with a sheet over it to shade the pumpkin in here from the sun, and you want to shade it so the skin stays young and nice and loose so it can expand and not put tension on it for as long as possible. Other than the potassium, I've been feeding some calcium to help with the cell division in the pumpkin. So you get the potassium for cell growth and the calcium for cell division, and that helps the pumpkin grow as big as it can on this plant. Of course, I'm still giving some nitrogen, some Alaska 511 fish fertilizer. Use a vine I've kind of trained from over there to take the place of this one because that one's kind of slowed down. So I use that one to also train here along with this one and that one, which is pretty far ahead. I actually need to move this old plant back a little more and weed out in here some more to give space for these vines to grow in. This plant I've just kind of used as a walkway to get around to the pumpkin because there's no pumpkin on it, of course, and it's just kind of there. Here's a kind of a view of the main vine in there. It's mostly good except an area near the stump that I can show you, and of course a couple squash vine borer areas over there. Let me walk over closer to the stump. There's tons of bees. The bees love these flowers, by the way, the honeybees. Alright, so this is stump right there, nice big, and that area right there, I've zoomed in, is an area of rot that I've had to cut the vine in half there. I had to do it horizontally to get some air in there to help it clean out, also with some hydrogen peroxide. And that's the end of the pumpkin patch. Of course, I've trained some vines from that plant especially into here just to take over some space. So there's some vines going way over there, and there's also a lot of squash, normal squash like spaghetti squash, butternut squash, and watermelon vines just all around in there. And this is the garden. It's kind of a jungle because I left for a couple days and I came back and I've just been too busy to kind of like chop all the weeds down, and I'm not really gonna be able to chop the tomatoes because that would of course kill the tomato plants. And the problem is that there's all these tomatoes growing all in between the beds that I can't cut either, so it's just kind of a jungle of tomatoes in the garden. But yeah, that's it. there's the plant. And see you next time.